everybody, it is Calxiyn and Hunter here. If you guys enjoy this video, you guys should subscribe, become patrons over on Patreon to support the channel, and follow us over on social media. And remember that you guys can get our reactions an entire week early if you want to on Patreon. And we are talking about Penny today.
I feel like you should do a whole video just in your intro voice. Hello everyone, now we're going to talk about Penny. Penny got added into the introduction and she has long hair and laser hands.
Anyways,
I would really enjoy that.
Here's the thing. Here's the tea.
And there is a thing, apparently.
Lots of people were upsetty a little bit because here's what I'm going to go over, okay?
Really?
Here's my hot take. If you have headcanons, and you wanted those headcanons to be true, that's fine. But you getting upset over something that you caused yourself, like, it's not right to blame the show for that. And what I mean is, there have been many fan fictions, many comics about Penny, like, Penny's, like, in the middle of the streets of Atlas. Ruby thinks she sees her, she goes up to her, Penny turns around, and, like, Ruby's, like, Penny's like, do I know you, friend?
Penny, oh my
God,
God,
then Ruby starts to cry.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that has been a very popular sort of comic topic in fanfic AU. Okay, but that is not the show's fault. Okay, and I understand that people get their hopes up about certain things and they think about certain things so long that they want it to happen, but I feel like this is very, like, I feel like this is like more poignant of a point compared to Adam, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like that this is sort of the cream of the crop in terms of headcanon gone awry with some people. Some people had such a, like, held on for this expectation and it didn't happen and now it's crushed them. Whereas with Adam, like, I feel like it was on a more minimal level, but this is, like, to the extreme, if that makes sense. Like, to the extreme sort of degree. And it's like, guys, it's not the show's fault if they didn't do what you wanted. Now, here's my other hot take. I understand if people are disappointed, though, because of emotional impact in terms of writing stuff. That is a different conversation, okay? Like, in my mind, there are the people that are upset because their AU didn't come true, but there are the people that are upset because they feel like that this lessens the emotional impact of
Penny's death.
Here's the thing about that, in my opinion, is that it is not going to be this easy, sis. Like, you guys think it is not. Like, it is not. And here's what I would like to say. World building wise, this makes sense. If you guys have watched like other robot movies, and the first that comes to mind is Big Hero 6. Okay, like, if you guys, spoilers for a movie from 2014. Okay, Big Hero 6, Baymax, like, goes into the void. Alright, he takes out, like, his core chip, like, from his core and, like, sends it in with his, like, mangled arm, and then the arm goes through the portal and it's holding the chip inside. They make a new Baymax, they put in the old chip, right? And I would just like to bring up to people, like, do you guys not think that that scene in Big Hero 6 was emotional? Because I still think it had emotional impact even though they brought Baymax back at the end, right? Just because something is sort of brought back, and it is very similar. Like, what they did with Penny and what they did in Big Hero 6 is very, very similar to me. Just because something has been, quote-unquote, resurrected doesn't mean it lessens the emotional impact of death, because sometimes the emotional impact doesn't come from the death, but what surrounds the death. To me, it's not emotional because Penny died, it's emotional because Pyrrha ripped Penny to shreds on national TV in front of thousands of millions of people, like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that, like, obviously Penny dying is sad, but Penny was always sort of this tool for Cinder's plan, and what I found most emotionally damaging was that, like, Penny wanted to be sort of a real girl so bad. She didn't just want to be a robot, right? But Cinder used her as a tool. She used her as a thing, whereas Penny wanted to be a person. And Cinder does that with real humans, too. She wanted to study at Beacon.
She mentions that.
And so it's sort of one of those things where the sad part to me, the tragedy is that by Cinder sort of treating Penny as an object, for using Penny for this plan, it treats Penny like a robot and not a human, like, of human life that has sort of been lost, if that makes sense. But it's not, like, now Penny being brought back doesn't lessen what Cinder did. It's sort of the idea of, like, what the villains sort of, you know, feel and how their humanity works and stuff like that. Like, to Cinder, even real humans are just things.
Exploited.
Yeah, exactly. It's the exploitation of Penny in that scene that is the real tragedy for me. And I think that that is going to happen again. Okay, and so that's why I'm saying that things are not going to be this easy this time. And so I understand why people may be like, she remembers everything, it's like it never happened, it lessens the emotional impact. But we have seen her in one scene, and even in this scene, to me, she doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah.
So I have some ideas. right?
Yeah.
I know people wanted her to lose her memory, but this makes sense world building wise. Relic of Creation involvement, okay? And so that's the other thing I want to talk about, right?
We'd mentioned that in the other videos
and we've mentioned it a couple times. Like, people think that the Relic of Creation was used to sort of give Penny a soul and all of that stuff, and so there could be consequences to that. Like, we could have an equivalent exchange situation. Hello, Full Metal Alchemist. How are ya? I'm gonna be restarting that this week because we hit the $400 goal on Patreon. Anyway, it could take, like, years off your lifespan. That's what people were suggesting. And so I actually, like, that's the first thing I thought of, too, because Pietro was coughing. And so what if the reason why he's sick, it's not just sort of a mantle, like, Mantle's all dusty and gross and disgusting.
He's using part of himself?
What if he's using part of himself? Like, he's lost, like, he's given up a lung this time, you know what I mean? Like, he is fixing himself with his own technology, right? Like, he, you know, put in a fake lung or something.
Because we can see someone can have part of, like, because
and you see he has these diagrams in the background, right? And so I sort of want to show those off, but what if the reason why he has these diagrams, like, we couldn't even figure out what they were? Like, what if that's him? Like, what if that's his stuff? Hold on, I can't find it.
Also, because of the machine we see in Volume 3 that takes part of Pyrrha's, or part of Amber's not semblance, aura.
See, look at this. Does this not look like someone's chest to you guys? Like the inside of someone's chest and like some bones, and like that could be just because he works on prosthetics, but what if that's not the only reason? What if it is because he has been giving up parts of himself? What if that's why he can't walk anymore? He's not just getting old. It's like every time they sort of try to bound Penny to the robot and they fail, he's just given up something else. So equivalent exchange, bitches. All right, something of equal value must be lost, sis. Like, that's what Full Metal Alchemist has taught me so far. So, I think that would be really interesting. Equivalent exchange, bitch. That's what somebody said in my Discord server. And so, what is the cost of a new soul? What is the cost of giving someone life again? Right? Because I think that Penny, she acts in a similar way, so I think that she has the same soul, but it's sort of like, if you guys have watched Pinocchio, like, gets, like, brought alive by the blue fairy, and we could sort of assume that maybe the Relic of Creation, because of its blue sort of tip, will be representative of the blue fairy. But if you guys don't know, Pinocchio has to learn to be a good boy to be human forever, but he doesn't. And so he turns back to wood, but he's brought back again because of Geppetto or something. Like, I can't remember exactly, but it's like Geppetto's like, no, it's too late, Pinocchio. And then Pinocchio's fine because he learned the lesson. Oh, you know what happened? Okay, Pinocchio goes into the whale and he drowns. And then the good fairy brings him back because that shows that he is a good boy, that he was willing to sacrifice himself for his father. Or something like that. And he's brought back, right?
One thing I will say...
And he has the same personality. So it's sort of like, you know what I mean? In terms of fairy tale magic, even if something turns back to stone or turns back to, you know what I mean? Like, even if somebody dies and is brought back and it's sort of the puppet thing, like, even though Pinocchio died and was brought back, he still had the same personality. He was still the same Pinocchio. Like, the good fairy gave him the same soul. It's all very just...
I would say that her personality has changed in odd ways because she looks like she's the guardian of Mantle or Atlas now. But in Volume 3, she said she wanted to stay at Beacon. Obviously, you can't stay at Beacon, but is she no longer in an academy or like a huntsman school? Is she doing something else? Has her opinions changed?
Maybe.
Was that changed by herself? Or was those changes forced on her?
So we talked about this in the server. Trauma. Okay?
Oh, certainly.
Pyrrha ripped her apart.
Does she remember it?
I think so. I think she would remember. I'm good as new. She obviously knew, right? And so, here's the thing. Pyrrha ripped her to shreds. What if she... I don't want to say is anti-Beacon, because obviously she still likes Ruby, and she still likes... I don't know. She looked at Juniper a little bit, but what if it's like... What if Penny has a grudge against Pyrrha? That is basically what I'm getting at. Like, what if Penny, and a couple people said that in my Discord server as well, like, what if Penny really hates Pyrrha? And so she's like, you know what? I did want to go to Beacon, but I don't think I want to go there anymore. I would rather
bad memories tied up in there.
Like, I would rather be in a place where people praise me instead of ripping me to shreds.
What if,
you know what I'm saying?
What if she came back and she was like seriously traumatized?
Yeah, I think that she is seriously traumatized.
And so then they had to change her to make her so she's peppy and
maybe they've like... Okay, this is gonna be a weird comparison, but if you guys have watched Black Mirror, there's an episode where there's like an Ashley 2, and it's basically somebody's consciousness put into a robot, but they firewall the other parts of the consciousness so she can't actually speak like her mind, because like basically the whole thing is sort of a Hannah Montana thing. Like the girl is like peppy and happy and like a pop star, but she really wants to be like emo and metal and stuff, so it blocks the emo firewall. It blocks out all of her true self. So what if they had to put a firewall around Penny? Like, what if they had to be like, I don't think that's a correct term, right? Whatever. But I'm saying, what if they had to like...
They had to delete code.
Yeah, either delete it or like put it somewhere and like make her not like act out, basically. Like, that would be pretty fucked, okay? But that actually ties into something that we're going to talk about with Watts, but I would like to flip to my next page first. We also see the relic smoke around Ironwood in the OP.
What could potentially be?
Question mark.
It also gives me...
It looks like snow, right? But also, when Jin appeared, there was smoke around Salem. So smoke. There should be, like, this is relic smoke.
Would it be
around
blue
Ironwood.
smoke or white smoke? What it kind of gives me the idea of, like, the cryo chambers opening and, like, the smoke pours out. Maybe that could be, like, the new Penny.
And we also know that Ironwood literally brought Amity Arena back to Atlas, like, judging by, and we also see it in the last shot in the OP, which I don't think we noticed in our intro analysis, but it's one of those things where it's like, I think that Ironwood could have definitely just dragged Amity Arena here, and Penny was still inside it and all of that stuff. But yeah, Amity Arena apparently is like a floating island that is supposed to be off the coast of Atlas, so I feel like it just went home. Like, after the Vital Festival, but that just floated all by itself back home. But yeah, and so it's also possible that maybe Ironwood keeps using the Relic of Creation, and that there's a price for that. But what is the price?
Is there... What I thought is that, like, it would be...
What's interesting about Full Metal Alchemist is that, from what I remember, both of the boys get yeeted a little bit.
Yes.
Right? Like, one of the boys entirely gets yeeted to bring the mom back, but it doesn't bring the mom back perfectly.
Alphonse.
And so you sort of have...
Edward, arm and a leg.
Yeah, to bring his brother back, though. And so, what if, like... Obviously, I haven't finished watching the show yet, so don't spoil it for me. But in my mind, if one human brings back a sort of skewed dead human, like 1,000 humans or 100 humans may bring back one perfect human. Does that make sense? And I don't know if it fucked up just because you can't bring her back from the dead, so maybe you shouldn't try that, sis. But, like, what if it needed more? Like, cause it's equivalent exchange. Something of equal value must be lost. How many living souls is worth to resurrect one dead one? And so what if, like, to go into your, like, boner for Ironwood being a dictator, like, what if Ironwood is intentionally, like, slaughtering people, or maybe, like, even, like, taking the Faunus, like, slaves from the Schnee-Dust Company mine and slaughtering them in order to make robots?
Oh, God, that would be dark.
You know what I mean? And so 100 Faunus make one penny, or 1,000 Faunus make one penny, or something like that.
You think that could result in evil penny?
You guys want, like, consequences, and you guys want suffering, and you guys want, like, oh, for this to, like, matter. You know what I mean? Like, for Penny 2.0, not everything to be okay. But imagine if we, you know, see Ironwood slaughtering a bunch of people to bring her back. For the Relic of Creation, it demands sacrifice. I'm just saying, I do like the idea of Pietro getting sicker and sicker, but if the audience doesn't form an emotional attachment to him, if he dies because of his sickness, because of bringing back Penny, it's not going to have the same impact. However, I do have something else I would like to talk about.
One thing that I noticed is that Penny no longer has her swords.
Yeah,
because that's what killed her. So that could be part of the trauma thing. She doesn't want to use those swords anymore.
And it's like, I have lasers now, so fuck you. Like,
I mean, she always had lasers. But...
I know, but now her lasers are stronger, so maybe she feels like she doesn't need to use the swords anymore.
And she doesn't like using swords because that killed her last time?
And somebody brought up, like, oh, RWBY could be more overprotective of Penny and not let Penny, like, do what she wants and stuff like that. I don't think that's really necessary. Like, I don't know. But here's the interesting part. Here's the tea. Like, here's the real theory, okay? Watts hacking Penny, okay? Ooh. I have a great idea. Oh. And it would be, like, Watts hacks into Penny. Penny is conscious, right, throughout the entire thing, because she has a soul, but she has to watch herself massacre a bunch of people that Penny was so excited to protect, and she uses her lasers to basically massacre the people of Mantle, and they blame it again on Ironwood, and they blame it on the military, and it seems like it's Ironwood's fault, and it's Mantle's fault, and it's supposed to be like to manipulate the election, and so they just, like, massacred and genocided, like, the people of Mantle or something, and so Penny is, like, screaming because she doesn't want to do it because she's still conscious, because she still has a soul, even though she's a robot, but she can't control her actions. Because Watts has hacked into her, and Watts is controlling her, and Watts is making her kill a bunch of people.
Oh, that's fucked up.
And
that's
so
way
not
worse than
only
going
is she fucked up from Pyrrha ripping her apart, but Penny massacres the people of Mantle because of Watts, and these are the people that she was supposed to protect. And so I'm gonna throw in a little Full Metal Alchemist, little Code Geass, okay? Spoiler for Code Geass Season 1. If you guys are concerned, skip to like 2 minutes because we'll probably be done talking about it by then. Euphemia, if you guys remember, in Code Geass, which I am watching, right? Princess Euphemia, like, they have this whole plan for the Japanese special zone. And if you guys don't know anything about Code Geass, Britain basically colonized everything, and the Japanese aren't allowed to call
for
themselves
a second time. That
Japanese.
first time,
they're called,
but they did it again.
11s, because it's Area 11. And so they're like, we're gonna make a zone, and like these people can be called Japanese, and it'll be great. And then Yuffie tries to work with Zero, and Zero has, he's the revolutionary. He's the one trying to take down Britannia, and he's just like, okay. And they're joking around because they're also related. It's all very complicated if you've never watched Code Geass, but he's like, I can make you do anything that I want, Yuffie. And Yuffie's like, oh yeah, fuck you, Lelouch, that's not true. And Lelouch is like, yeah, I could even make you say kill all the Japanese if I wanted to. And then it goes into Yuffie's brain, and she ends up killing all the Japanese and ordering everyone to kill all the Japanese. And because she's the princess, right, they all listen to her. And so there's she's called the Massacre, Princess Massacre or something, because she massacred all the Japanese. And so in my mind, because Euphemia says, no, I don't want to, I don't want to do it, that would basically be the same as what happens to Penny, because Penny would be watching herself doing these things but not be able to control herself. Very Black Mirror, because I think there's an episode in Black Mirror where something similar to that happens too, where it's a cookie and the cookie's watching things happening. I think they're in a teddy bear.
Yes,
or something, and they can't control their actions or whatever, but they're still alive.
Their consciousness,
and they can only press yes or no, all of that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Crazy.
That was Black Hotel.
Right? And so I feel that would really work, and people are like, oh, well, this is just fine, everything's okay, nothing has consequences. But then bringing Penny back and Watts being able to hack into Penny, and Penny massacring a bunch of people, and hearing Penny scream while she does it, that'd be pretty fucked up. And then Watts just makes Penny explode, so her core is lost and she's permanently dead.
Or maybe, does she kill herself? Does she maybe later sacrifice?
Well, she can't control herself. So, what has to happen to make it even more emotionally impacting is that Team RWBY, they have to kill Penny in order to make her stop killing all the people, and they have to destroy her core, because it's not good enough to just cut off her legs and make her stop. They need to kill her. They have to kill Penny.
Does that feel a little bit like you're just using this character for the tragedies?
Maybe. But it's to show, it uses a bunch of things again, and it shows that Watts is, again, treating, Penny as technology to be used to kill, instead of treating her like a person. And we talked about that in the Watts and Geppetto video, and sort of the perversion of art with the military and all that stuff. It's they're using something which, to Pedro, is his daughter, right, and all of that stuff, and Watts is using it to instead kill and butcher and commit acts of genocide, right? And blame it on the military. And it's all this political act of war situation. And I feel that it would be interesting because they remade Penny again, knowing full well what happened to her last time, right? And so it's sort of one of those things where it's Team RWBY has to kill Penny so she cannot be brought back, because nobody should ever be doing this again. I don't know. It's sort of again, to bring up Full Metal Alchemist, how they have to kill Nina and the dog hybrid, even though it's still alive, sort of thing, the Chimera, because it's just not it, sis. It's just not supposed to
kill them. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not supposed to be it, sis. And so I think that would be so dramatic. And what if Ironwood shoots forward and he's shooting forward in Mantle? Do you remember that from the OP? What if Ironwood is the one that has to put down Penny, and Team RWBY's like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, what was I supposed to do? She was killing a bunch of people. But I think Team RWBY doing it, that would be sort of the emotional impact, and people would be like, well, they just brought her back to kill her again. But
that's
it's
kind of how I sort of you don't want it to feel that's a really cool scene, but you don't want it to feel exploited.
But that's how Watts is.
I guess,
you know what I mean? And Watts has beef with the military and with creations and with all that stuff. I think if not that, Watts could just hack Penny, and then Penny could work for Salem. Whoops.
I feel there needs to be something. It's not just Penny is back and everything's great. She needs to be traumatized. She needs to be used. It needs to be something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that not only can Penny be traumatized, it's that later down the line Penny is used by Watts, and the worst thing happens to her.
Do you get the impression that Penny's a little OP? Like, she's flying around and butchering people. Like, so I feel like someone that OP cannot exist on the good guy's side. Or at least too long
That's
on the
what
good
I'm
guy's
saying.
side.
So
yeah.
Watts hacks her, and if they don't kill her, she just
that
goes
ending is
on the
believable.
on the bad side.
The only I really enjoy the idea of Penny being back. One thing
I love the idea of Penny pulling a Princess Euphemia, and you guys may not, like, I don't know, like, you guys may be like, wow, Cal, that's pretty fucked up. Like, why would you say that? I don't know. I like the idea. I think it shows what kind of person Watts is. I think that even though Watts has respect for, like, technology and all that stuff, that he would take the technology for himself.
Yeah, and that
I
could
feel
be
like
Watts,
Team RWBY trying to kill Penny would be interesting, but I feel like ultimately Penny then being taken by the bad guys would be even more interesting. And for Penny to be conscious but not be able to control her actions, that's fucked up. It's pretty fucked up.
Penny's like the villain. Penny's a villain from then on.
Maybe, yeah. And it's not even that she wants to be a villain. It's that she has to be because she can't control herself and they can't get her back. So yeah,
I feel like scenes like that. One thing that I didn't like about Penny being back is I feel like it was just their reaction was way too simple. Like,
yeah, their reaction was a little.
It was like, hey, my friend that I saw butchered in front of me is back, and this,
Blake is
and
like,
I don't feel like conflicted about this at all. That was the one thing that bothered me.
And Blake is like, this is strangely wholesome, and I'm like, this is a little cringy. Like, who's doing this? I don't know.
I feel like if I saw my friend who I saw murdered just fly by and act like nothing, I would like vomit and cry. Like,
Ruby's reaction makes sense. Right? Everybody else is just kind of never a dull moment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that sort of, I know that she was a robot and there was always probably maybe the possibility in their minds, but it's sort of like how Yang and Blake and Weiss all react and how Jean reacts. And hopefully there's a scene where Jean's like, I'm sorry, Pyrrha ripped you to shreds. And Penny's just like...
I feel like they're gonna maybe they were acting like that because they were in such shock, and later on you see them be more.
But yeah, it is definitely weird. I definitely thought it was just like, this is a weird dialogue going on right here, but that's okay because I think that this, again, I said this a couple times. This was supposed to be the Volume 6 final. Not saying that like as an excuse or anything, but I just expect the rest of the volume to be better. You know,
I think this is a good.
I know, I do too. I just mean that particular dialogue. Like you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say this is leftovers.
I feel like if this was like a one-off thing that wasn't in the context of all the other episodes that are going to come in the season, you could make those arguments. But seeing as we don't know where Penny's character will go and people's reaction to Penny's return, we don't know where that's going. We can't. We need to hold off on those judgments. I understand why people. Again, I understand why people think the way they do. I understand why people are like, she remembers, it has no consequences, like, there's no suffering here, but don't worry, like, there is room. Be suffering. There is room for suffering to still happen here, right? Suffering is like Jell-O. There's always room for Jell-O.
I think that people are judging it too early, and I understand why, especially people where it's like, this is going to, I don't want to say make or break the show for them, but, like, some people have certain standards and don't want certain things to have happened, like, for writing reasons. It's like, if, you know, if they bring Pyrrha back, I'm dropping the show, right? Like, that I understand, and so it's sort of like everybody has to sort of judge, okay, am I really gonna, like, stick with this to see where it goes? Have they done the one thing that I didn't want them to do? Because, like, even if Pyrrha got brought back for us, obviously I love RWBY, but I would sort of contemplate what we've been here the entire time for, because that would mean that nobody's died except for Team Bronze and Lionheart.
And Pyrrha.
No, if they bring Pyrrha back, is what I'm saying.
No. Now, I guess Roman's still in the dirt.
If they bring Roman back, because we talked about this idea in the Neo video, right? We talked about the idea of Neo finding out about the Relic of Creation and using it to bring Roman back, but I wonder who she would sacrifice for that to be
Maybe that's how we find out that people aren't the same when they come back. Roman comes back, but he's not the same. I think that would be interesting.
I really like that. Speaking of Neo and Cinder, what the fuck are they doing? Who knows? I don't think we're gonna do a video on that, but I do wonder.
I noticed that in Volume, I was rewatching the first episode of Volume 6, and first episode's all Team RWBY, and then the second episode is what Cinder was doing.
I know, that's what I hope is happening again, please!
Because like in Volume 6, first episode, they crashed a train, and then they're like, well, what do we do now? Volume 7, they get in jail, and what do we do now? Next season, next episode's
let me see
all
the
about
villains. I just want to know what they're doing. I want to know what Cinder
Not only Cinder and Neo, but
doing.
also Emerald and Mercury and Hazel.
Fuck them. They don't matter.
Or potentially Watts
Only Watts and Tyrion are in the OP. But yeah, we will see you guys later. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons over on Patreon who support our channel. Their names will be showcased now.